Hey, welcome to Abyss Gazing, a horror podcast where we celebrate all things spooky and mental health.
I'm your co-host Mark,
And I'm your co-host Josh.
and we have returning with us zambies-decays, and we're talking about the craft.
Man, you had every chance to throw in a reference to one of the most iconic scenes in this entire movie, where they do the levitating act, and you could have been like, "We're on this episode, we're as stiff as a board, light as I don't
Oh
remember that.
God,
That's what you say it. We could have said it, bro. We could have thrown it out there.
light as a feather, stiff as a board. I would have thought you would have gone with the obvious of we are the weirdos, but still.
Hey, do not put that out there. I am a weirdo. 100%
Proud.
I mean, that's
proud
who I've
indeed.
hung out with since like high school, is the weirdos.
Yeah. And
Weird is the new normal.
very true. Very, very true. And that classic statement may be coming soon to a Victims and Villains t-shirt near you. So yeah, The Craft.
It's fantastic. It's a wonderful piece of nostalgia from the 90s.
The Craft is really an interesting piece of media to look at because it's very much a time capsule of the mid 90s where, like, if you didn't like, you just saw this and like didn't understand the history of it, like it was kind of like the kickoff point to like the modernization of like witchcraft and like popular media, where you had this Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Charmed. You just had like a bunch of like very like front and center conversations. Practical Magic also came out a year after this. And so this kind of like was like the kicking off point of kind of normalizing the conversation of like witchcraft and like other forms of religion in popular culture.
I mean, they were just kind of like the people I hung out with. So those were the kinds of weirdos I hung out with in high school, was people like that. So yeah.
Yes. But this movie, I feel like, from someone that like has been in the like chasing the popular crowd and also been, kind of the proud weirdo, like this movie in essence is like kind of like makes me feel seen as like a weird guy that's into like some really niche things. Like I feel seen and heard because of this movie.
I mean, you do like the Hellraiser sequels. So
Golly, man, look at that beautiful flag hanging right back there.
I like that you made the reference to the other shows and stuff, and I was like, wow, I feel called out right now because it was like Charmed was my favorite show growing up. I loved witchcraft and all of this, and it just hit me on so many points. And Buffy, and then getting to see witchcraft on films, and Practical Magic is also one of my favorite movies. I'm like, this is just hitting all those notes. It was nice to see witches like that was what I wanted to be when I was a kid. I was like, I wish I had magic. You lie awake at night when you're like a young girl and teenager, and they're probably like normal teenagers are fantasizing about some jock, and I'm like, I wish I had magic. So it was like watching this and getting to see young women in power and their struggles. And then also, you got to throw in the teenager high school drama, but it's like, and not all witches are being portrayed as evil. Like you have the bad and the good, but also it's kind of normalizing the fact that witchcraft isn't satanic in ways. So it was kind of cool to see that.
well,
Yeah,
it also did a good job at the same time of kind of almost showing how power can corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Was kind of the underlying theme of the movie.
I I will say I don't necessarily feel like it is, but it isn't. Like this movie addresses so much in
Mm-hmm.
under like 100 minutes. Like the
Yeah.
the sheer amount of like commentary and topics that this movie addresses in that limited span of time is impressive. This is probably one of the most impressively put together ensemble narratives that I've ever seen. And it's also worth mentioning that, like, yes, while this was coming out at a time that it was normalizing witchcraft in popular culture, this was also like a who's who of Hollywood at this time, where you had Skeet Ulrich, Breckin Meyer, Nev Campbell, Robin Tooney, Fairuza-Bulk. Like it just had like a really impressive cast that was doing these like other hot button things. Whether you're talking about Breckin Meyer in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, you had Skeet Ulrich obviously in Scream. Fairuza-Bulk would go on to do Waterboy, and you just like have all of these things, and it was such a cool thing. And I also too want to show you. I dug this out for nostalgia, but like,
Nope. Yep.
yeah. So
I love
I
Salem, by the way. Like I always want. I was
oh,
like, I got a black cat, but I didn't name it Salem. I named it Midnight because I am not very creative. But yeah, I was just like, I wish you could talk.
And then when you
yeah,
think about it, it's really like, no, I'm glad you don't talk because
Yeah,
God
right.
knows what all
You've
you've
seen
seen.
me do things I don't want to hear.
I
But I mean, you also had, like you said, Fairuza Balk did Waterboy, but she did a handful of movies, and she does an
yeah.
excellent job of playing these completely batshit crazy, over the top characters
Mhm.
in everything she's in.
And talking about like them cramming everything into this movie too, like I'm thinking about, I'm like, not only is it teenage drama and witchcraft and struggles and illnesses, mental health issues, power. There was a sexual assault scene.
Yep.
All of this happened in this movie. And then there's also like a powerful person of color in this movie too, and all of that. And I know like it was the 90s, but still it had a lot in it.
Yeah, and also like with the Raquel character and Christine Taylor's I think her name was Laura, if I remember correctly. Like the struggle
Yeah.
between so the struggle between them, like, obviously is like a platform to address like racism, because like when we
Mm-hmm.
first meet the girls, like when Sarah first gets there, Sarah's going through that typical like fish out of water, like I'm the new girl, I'm the new person in school, like trying to like that in and of itself has its own mental health struggles. But these three girls that we meet in Nancy, Bonnie, and Raquel are all they're all kind of alienated by the popular society as a whole. Whether Nancy has the slut moniker around her, but she comes from a more impoverished family, so you have classism as a point of conversation in this. Then you have Bonnie, who has third degree burn. She's a burn victim. And so you have a commentary on societal beauty and the unfair expectations that we place on men and women growing up. And Raquel, you have kind of what looks like she's kind of like the only person of color in this school. So you kind of have her being bullied simply because of her race. And I feel like these three girls kind of embody so much of this, so much of the film's like narrative on like what you're speaking about. Like this is what makes this movie really special, is because it's taking each one of these things and it's personifying them, but it's also developing these characters so you feel sympathetic for them, but you also see the point of view and the mental health struggles that they're going through at the same time.
Yeah, they all had their own specific issues and way of dealing with them. And one of the things with what was the swimming the one chick that was on the swim team, what was her name?
Raquel and
Yeah.
Laura.
Laura, yeah.
So in some things they kind of hint at it's a conflict due to racism. In this, it's just blatant. That's what it is. It's
Which
just every issue in the movie is just in your face. It's not hinted at or the subtle undertone. It's everything is right there in the forefront.
which is something that I really respect and admire about this movie is the fact that like the sequence in particular where like Raquel and Laura are, it's after swim practice, they're kind of getting ready to go back to class or to go home for the day. They're getting changed, and Raquel just kind of looks at Christine Taylor's character and says, why do you do this? And she just flat out basically says, I'm racist, without,
Yeah.
I'm not going to use the exact words that she says, but like, she just flat out says that it's like, I'm racist. And that's kind of one of the things too. And that I think this, like you said, Mark, like this movie is like really, it's in your face with these characters and it's unapologetic in that delivery. And I think this movie is, where other movies of that era or television shows were like, we brought like Charmed and like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Practical Magic. These are kind of like on the lighter side of things. And while this film definitely does have a lighter side, it's definitely also trying to address a lot more bigger issues and and how they have an impact on mental health also in the process.
Yeah, they touch on darker subject matters that, like you said, a lot of people just kind of glaze over. They're like, yeah, we're gonna hint at it, but then we're gonna like laugh, and keep it light. And it was definitely, I think the thing about it too is when Nancy like goes full crazy and everything, and you see it, and it's like very dramatic. You feel for her too. Like even if she's the villain in certain ways, all these characters, you develop emotions for them. Like they're very relatable. You want to root for the underdog, and even if you're not like have the same issues as them, the way they pull you in with the story and the characters develop, and like 1 minute you're like, wow, they're going crazy, next minute you're like, okay, I understand and I feel for you.
Well, like we brought up Sarah earlier. Like Sarah also too is a someone that, has expressed, depression in the past. And there's a sequence early on, probably in like the tail end of the first act, where like they have just kind of gone to the witchcraft store for the very first time with Sarah, and she reveals that like, yeah, I used to be a cutter, and kind of shows the scars. And so this opens up the conversation now about self-harm and how like, depression can definitely have a lot of that stuff and have impact to where like if depression goes untreated, then it results in things like self-harm and self-harm in particular with cutting like is also borders suicide. And it really does kind of check that like, obviously she's a new girl, so like we don't know like what the kind of stories are. We know a little bit about like her backstory with her mom and kind of stuff like that. But I feel like it also kind of hints at like reminding people that, that are outsiders, again, I feel like there's like a little bit of like a age difference between everyone on the call, but like I know growing up when I was in high school, like I grew up kind of like in the height of emo culture. And so a lot of people would, like Hawthorne Heights is a great example, cut my wrists and black my eyes so I can fall asleep tonight. And that was something that I knew a lot of people practice because they had X, Y, or Z reasons for feeling depression. And so that made them feel alive.
Well, they also used it later on in the movie as a weapon against her to kind of almost discredit her. Nobody's going to believe you, kind of thing. So it was almost used as ammo to attack her later on in the movie.
Which is so heartbreaking because I feel like that also speaks on like a little bit on like how we as society kind of treat people that have gone through self-harm phases where it's like, oh, well, you did this, but no one's going to believe you kind of thing,
Or you're
no
doing
one's
it for
gonna...
attention.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think if you like break down to and think about like the witchcraft itself and how it plays a role in this and how it's kind of like a coping mechanism and a way for these girls to heal, but they're using it not properly, and like not healthy coping mechanisms. In the end, you have to learn to control it, and it's not going to fully heal you. You have to heal yourself, and this is just like, it doesn't take away the problem. They were just distracting themselves from it with the witchcraft.
Yeah, they were using it a lot for superficial means and gains.
So I feel like in a way, like each one of them has their own reasons for why they're doing it, because we go back to the, original reasons where you look at uh Nancy has a really hard home life. She has a abusive like mother slash like boyfriend or stepfather. The film never really specifies, but you have that, you have Bonnie that's kind of going through her own issues with self-image because of the being a burn victim. You have Sarah that's kind of going through her own, like, I'm still new here, still kind of getting to know everything and still kind of getting acquainted. And then you have Raquel that is bullied for being a person of color. And so each one of them, it seems like they're trying to face, I'm probably gonna butcher the name. Is it Manon? Is that how you say the entity's name?
Oh, I forget.
Manon,
Manon. I think it's,
like
yeah,
Manon. Okay.
non.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's a non.
So Manon. So like that's the reason why they want to chase him, is because they want to be seen. They want to be heard and they want to be validated as people.
well, with oh, the girl that joined the group, that was the new girl.
Sarah.
Sarah. Yeah, I'm horrible with names.
Can I just point out that the main character, Sarah, seemed to be like a popular name in the 80s, 90s, like Labyrinth and all of that. Like, I feel like there's a
Just
lot of
just a
there's a
little bit.
lot
Now, see,
there's a lot of Sarah names. I can't think of another one off the top of my head, but I feel like that was a popular name.
Ashley was too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've known quite a few of them, but still. Anyways, yeah, Sarah, she you find out in the movie that actually her attempted suicide was caused by her not understanding her powers and things happening around her because of it.
It's
So
fair.
she didn't understand what was going on with her, to find out that apparently her mom was a witch too. But because her mom had died, she didn't have anybody to explain to her what was going on and just thought she was nuts.
Which I think is like, even like not to like, I feel like we're placing that everything within the craft is like a commentary, but I mean, like, this film's
I
is a
mean,
great example.
that's kind of
I just
what you said just a little bit ago.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it does commentate on a lot of things, but like there are obviously, like, there's a story structure around it, and we'll get to that. But like the thing that you're talking about in particular, I feel like, not being a parent, not wanting to also be a parent. Um, I did just knock on wood. Also at the same time, I feel like it's like it demonstrates kind of almost how, like, even like looking in like schools, like how schools handle things like mental health or sexual health, where like there are things that like you just don't talk about because like they're taboo, but it's like it's part of life that kids are going to feel things like depression and uh like, bullying, and like they're gonna have sex at some point, like they're gonna masturbate and they're gonna go through all of that stuff, and it's like it's the, I don't want to say it's the parent's job, but like, it is, somebody has to explain that to them at a certain point.
Well, the systems that they're put into, schools specifically, are kind of really backwards in the way they deal with kids and situations. It's like the people that are having the issues are the ones that get punished for trying to do something about it. A kid gets
Sure.
bullied. If they defend themselves, they get expelled. I
Mm.
mean, it's so backwards. And they're more worried about conformity in passing tests and regurgitating answers for tests than they are about actually teaching kids things and promoting creativity. It's all about everything being structured in conformity, and this is the answer to this question.
Yeah. I mean, thinking about like me going to school versus like my children, but my children are only in elementary school. So, not that tough right now, but um just to relate this, like my daughter who um whether she's just a child right now or eventually I might need to test her because I'm undiagnosed with what I'm very certain is ADHD. And I'm sure I passed that on to her. But she's smart. She is so smart when it comes to reading. She loves reading. Like, I think her class level is around 20 something and she's at a 40. But math, they teach so much to the test. And she hates being timed. She hates being pressured. I'm the same way. So she has 2 minutes to do an entire sheet of math problems. And her teacher has told me, like, she knows math, she can do them. But when you put that clock on her, she just like fills out maybe half the page and stuff like that. And it's to go to show that they're teaching for what I think is normal and like neurotypical. And the people who aren't that and neurodivergent learn and aren't any less smart, but struggle because they're being taught not the way that they need to be taught. And that causes a lot of conflict. And I had that growing up as well. And you don't perform. And when you're not performing at the same level as someone else, it's a lot of stress. And that causes a lot of mental health issues.
Yeah, they had, when I was in school, they were developing what they were calling the SOLs here in Virginia, standards of learning. We all joked that it was the shit out of luck test because shortly, and you'll see why. Shortly after I graduated, they made it so at certain grades you were given SOLs, and if you didn't pass the SOLs, you either had to go to extracurricular learning and retest, and if you still couldn't pass it, you didn't get to move up. You were held back in those classes or grades. So that's why we started calling the shit out of luck test. But the problem they have found, that I've talked to college professors, is that the students were being taught the answer is A. The answer is A. And that's what the school year revolved around, was teaching them how to answer the questions on the test. And they got out in the real world and they had no clue how to use any of this information. Just, this is the question. The answer is this. Okay. How do you use it? I don't know, but this is the answer. And it's caused a real kind of decline.
They're not teaching the skill to figure out how to get to that answer.
Yeah.
And that's like, in high school, I struggled and like I failed some classes and I had to summer school some stuff. And I wasn't the greatest student because they teach for the test all the time. I got to college, I graduated with 4.0 because I applied myself. I'm paying for this. The college professors I had were like, it wasn't so you have a time structure and all of this. I got to learn the way I needed to learn. And that was easier for me. And it's just like everybody can get to that answer. They need to get to that answer their own way that works for them.
Yeah. And we have my wife's daughter's in college, and she almost goes into full anxiety and panic attacks because of tests. She could do the whole class just fine, but the moment they say here's a test, she starts having a panic attack and has
same way.
Yeah.
Test anxiety is real because it's like when you draw, like I got used to painting online, but when you draw and someone's watching you, it's like you're an artist, you can do it. But then the moment someone's over your shoulder watching you, you forget how to make a circle. Like it's crazy. It's our brains.
If you or someone you know is listening to this podcast right now and you're struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm,
or depression, we encourage you guys to please reach out. This is the heartbeat of why we do what we do. Suicide is currently the 10th leading cause of death in the United States, and as of this recording, there are 132 suicides that take place each and every day on American soil. And when you scale back internationally, there are 800,000 successful suicides. That is one death roughly every 40 seconds. So if you or someone you know is struggling, you guys can go to victimsandvillains.net/hope. That resource is going to be right in the description wherever you guys are currently listening or streaming this. There you'll find resources that include the National Suicide Lifeline, which is 1-800-273-8255. You can also text help to 741-741. We also have a plethora of other resources, including churches, getting connected with counselors, LGBT resources like the Trevor Project, and also veteran hotline as well. Please, if you hear nothing else in the show, understand that you listening to this right now, have value and worth. We get it. Suicide, depression, mental health, these are hard topics, and the stigma around them doesn't make it any easier. But please consider the resources right in the descriptions below, wherever you guys are listening, because once again, you have value and you have worth. So please stay with us.
Yeah, one of the things that like I will say in like my own education journey is I don't really remember like I squat about high school. Like I remember like the people I hung out with and like the memories that I made with like friends, but like I couldn't tell you anything about any things that like I learned. Because I feel like in like even now as an adult, like I've been learning a lot more useful and like practical things about things like science and like how my body works, and just like think like even like history, like certain things that like aren't taught in schools that just kind of seem taboo. And I think that that's part of the reason that I don't know how we got on this subject, but
it's mental health related.
It is mental health related. And I think that like, having like more conversations about like not just looking at kids as products to kind of move on to like level up for lack of a better word, and like actually like spending time to like, as you were saying, Zambies, like learning in your own way, because like everyone has their own abilities of learning. Like some people can watch other people and like that's how they intake that stuff. Some people have like can be told a set of directions once. Some people need to go through it like 4 or 5 times. And it's all about like you should be meeting the needs of the people and not necessarily just kind of looking at everything as like one cohesive unit, because at the end of the day, like I probably learned differently than Mark, and I've definitely probably learned differently than you. So it's like at the end of the day, it's like you're just gonna tell me something once, throw me in here and just let me fail. Like, and I kind of learned through like failures and like actually like being like
100%.
hands on. Yeah.
That is 100% how I learn. Like with I'm going to relate this to obviously my career, but painting. There's so many different techniques out there and everyone does tutorials and shows how. And I'm not a person that you can tell me what to do and I'll figure it out, because my brain is like, no. But if someone shows me, I have a better chance, but I learn the most by physically doing. So it's like, hey, you're gonna wet blend. This is gonna go over some people's heads, but someone can show me how to do it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it now. And then I'm gonna see all the mistakes I made. And I'm like, okay, I have learned that this mistake is not right, obviously, but I got there through this way. I'm not gonna do it that way now. Now I'm gonna try this way. And I learn by doing. That is like, I think, is that kinetic learning or how they call it? I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure it's called kinetic learning.
Yeah.
But like yeah, like I even like things with like, relating it back to coming back to the core of mental health, like, a therapist is a great example. When you go to look for a therapist or a counselor, like the first person that you meet might feel like trying to stick a circle into a square peg. And so you're finding like what works for you. And the same thing works for like being medicated. Like some medications, like you might have side effects that you might not really like, and trying to like find different things. And I think for like to bring it back to the craft, I think we see that kind of go through some of these character journeys. And Sarah, I feel like, is kind of the one where, she at first is like, I'm gonna kind of play along and drink the Kool-Aid. And, I think that comes back to just her wanting to be accepted and her trying these different things until ultimately she realizes, I can't be like you. I have to take the high road, and I have to, kind of be true to the natural witch that I am.
Oh, you were saying you didn't quite know how we got on the rant about schools and stuff like that, but part of this, it's you have in the craft, there are four girls that are kind of the rejects. Sarah's not quite in the beginning, but ends up getting there because of Skeet Ulrich's character. And if you show any sign of being different in high school, you're just beaten into the ground by the crowds. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's where I was, and that's kind of it's like I said, schools are more aimed towards conformity these days, and people like that, the strange ones, the weirdos, the crazy people, tend to fall outside of that. And how many issues do kids have these days because of that kind of mindset?
Uh, and like also like with that, like, high school is we Mark and I did an episode a few years ago on Just Friends, and this is a great example. But if you've seen that movie, there is a bully that is like treats Ryan Reynolds' character like absolute trash in that movie. And
I love that
like
movie.
But
Ryan
yeah,
Reynolds
so
comes
good.
Ryan Reynolds comes back 10 years later, and like that bully has never like grown past the high school experience. And for a lot of us that are the weirdos, like, because I think all three of us in this call like went through that, like
I don't
we
know
were
what
the
you're talking
weirdos. But like then like moving past high school, like I find myself kind of, growing into like different groups and like being able to kind of be a chameleon to like certain people, but like feeling most seen within a specific niche that is the horror community.
Yeah, I think the one thing too that at some point we might have all given up on. I know as an adult I don't care anymore, but when you're a teenager masking and when you feel like you don't fit in, and the one thing is like I feel like almost everyone knows what masking is, but a lot of people don't talk about the toll it takes on you as well, because you're trying so hard to be something you're not. And as much as you want to be that, deep down inside that's not your identity. So then you have an identity crisis and you struggle until you finally have to decide, are you going to be who you really want to be? And then you still going to get bullied and all of that as well. But it just trying to be that popular person. Sarah had that mask for a while, and then she realized, this is not me. I can't do this.
I think those are the words that I was like looking for when I originally started talking about this, Sarah. But I feel like even now, like masking is a subject that feels more prevalent to today and seems more relevant than ever before, because we live in this like social media age where you can literally project out the image of things that you want. Like, over the last couple of episodes, like every time we get to the socials, like Mark, it's been a running gag for like Mark and me is like that, like Mark's the painter, and I'm the guy that, just can't move on past the Hellraiser on TikTok. Like that's been kind of like our running gag.
For the last year, yeah.
Yeah, but like like we're both so much more than that. So where it's like, I'm a husband, I am a devout Christian, I am a Nicolas Cage enthusiast, I am a podcaster, I love Mean Girls, like, I have like a plethora of like other things that like I'm passionate about that I do outside of, creating Hellraiser content. That's like a very minute detail that I do, but like to some people I'm the Hellraiser guy, and to some people, Mark is the painter guy, and Zambies is the Twitch streamer. Like, like it's so easy nowadays to just kind of like mask like one aspect of your personality to feel accepted and to experience the endorphins of likes, retweets, comments, etc.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a mini painter. That is like my whole identity. Tabletop gaming. That's me.
I mean, we just spent like 10 or 15 minutes before we got on doing this. So, talking about our games, talking about Infinity and Warcry, and Josh was sitting there staring at us.
I don't know what you're talking about at all. No, but that's true. That's a very important thing, because even with like celebrities, it's like you're that one person from that one movie. Like going back to I'm not gonna say her name right, the one who plays Nancy.
Fairuza.
Yeah, she's most known for what movies, and some people get like that. I don't want to say stigma, but the
typecast.
Yes, thank you. And I was like, there's a word there. Or they're a celebrity who's like a basketball player. It's like that's all they're known for. But yeah, what if they like to cook? What are their hobbies? Like I have other hobbies outside of this. I'm a parent, I'm a wife, I've got a dog. I like other things. And just because this is at the top front doesn't mean that is all that person is.
Yeah, and like he was saying, we joke about me being the painter here, and I cook like a champ and always looking for new things to cook and new ways to cook. And other than that, I try to be a recluse because the public is annoying. But I'm looking forward to the day I can sit in my rocker on the porch with my cup of tea and yell at kids to get off my lawn. So,
I already do that. What are you talking
about? Yeah, Mark, you don't have to wait that much longer. You have a nice porch.
Kids come up all the time. I'm like, get off my lawn.
Right now, it's a pain. I fire off my smoker, and I might get people from other streets come around with food. Can you smoke this for me? It's like, I don't know you, but sure. It's like, come back in a couple hours to pick it up. We're joking, but it has happened.
Oh my God.
Mark, that's like a side business that you're just waiting for, man. You got to just like start charging people like $25 to do it, or like, but put your price.
I thought about doing that at one point.
Oh, you can compare it, like, or combine it. I mean, take your mini painting and your smoking ability and be like, all right, commission me for a whole army and you get a free smoked bag of ribs.
It's like, you can get a brisket too. And that in itself is its own art form. Cooking is its own art form to do it well.
I like to bake.
Baking's tricky.
That last Adepticon, I literally showed up with all the nerds there and a bag of cookies and was handing out cookies. And I homemade those cookies. And now it's a running thing. So next Adepticon, people are going to run up to me and be like, what did you bring this time, Zambies?
I get every Mother's Day. So are you cooking pulled pork again for Mother's Day? It's like, yes. And I'll be out here like all day on a Saturday before Mother's Day, smoking like 20 pounds of pork shoulder because it's an all day event to do it right.
Now I feel left out again because I can cook breakfast food and tacos. That's about my
Tacos
limitation.
Are great, though.
Tacos.
Everybody
I can cook
tacos.
them Mexican and in Korean. So I guess it's technically bulgogi. I don't know.
So
Yummy.
yeah, bulgogi is a type of
Korean
cooked meat.
beef.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think it
It's
refers more
very
to the
delicious.
sauce, but still, that's neither here nor there. But just remember, tacos fall apart and everybody loves them.
Yeah. So that means when you fall apart, everybody's still going to love you. And if they don't, then they're assholes.
Oh, that's so true. So the craft, to tie it back into people that, fall apart. So there's a sequence that where they all collectively get together, the four people get together on the beach and they summon Manan, and they're kind of like all seeking and like asking this deity for their like heart's desires, with that, for lack of a better word. And like shortly after that, like once as Mark says, Mark brought it at the beginning of the podcast, like this is a movie about like how power corrupts. And so we start to see that power corrupting the Nancy character, and there's a confrontation in the bathroom where Nancy, basically says, do you want to leave the circle? And I'm sorry, this is when they're in the car. And she says no. She's like, why does it always have to come with that with you? And like joking, I know we're joking about like tacos falling apart, but like you know, I feel like communities, like traumatic experiences, communities get affected, and you're gonna have people that are going to fall apart, that are going to fall away, and real community is a family because they stick with you regardless of that. And you need people like that are going to get down with you, not quit at the first inconvenience, because at the end of the day, that's going to make your mental health so much stronger, and you can always return the favor for them.
I think one important thing to note about that is also your own limitations in mental health as well, because you can, like, when you have people you love and like family, the water of the womb is not thicker than the blood of the coven. So those friends that you have in that bond and help each other through your own mental struggles. But there gets to a point too, and the point in the movie where Nancy is too much and everybody else is like, okay, this is too toxic. We want to be there for you, but we have to also know our own morals, our own limitations, and protect our own mental health. And that's when you see the break with the other girls as well. And that because they're going after Sarah, and then Nancy gets help. And even as Nancy's getting help, those girls don't hate her. They still support her. They just know that they need to be separated from her.
Well, they kind of almost played follow the leader, so to speak, which is, I mean, you see that everywhere. You get a strong personality in the group, and everybody tends to follow that strong personality.
Yep.
But it also says something to the fact of cutting off toxic people to make things better for yourself.
Yeah. I also, like, you bring up a great point, Zambies. It's like your mental health has to be like the first priority, like 100%. Like I've put into practice that there are like times that like I will actively check my phone, and then like there are times where like I cut myself off from society 100%, because I'm like, I just need to be present as a husband. I need to be able to laugh and cry and just to hang out with my wife. And like, even if like my wife's not home, it's like I just need to be present with myself. Or like I've shared this in the past, but like part of my morning routine is like getting up, like not checking my phone, but like getting up, making coffee, and spending time reading the Bible, time praying, and like allowing myself to kind of like just decompress. Because at the end of the day, like if I don't have that time, then like my mental health is completely skewed for like the next day, week, month, etc., because I didn't draw that line. And I had to find that line out the hard way by going through burn sessions, by being heartbroken, by like legitimately hating people and had to go through like the forgiveness process and like losing friends and just all of the heartbreaking, like that's part of the reason why your mental health has to come first for you, for yourself.
Yeah. Oh, you got it.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just like, as you're saying that, I was thinking of this analogy just popped in my head, and it's like, if you're swimming for your life and your friend is there and they're drowning and you're so exhausted because you've been struggling, what's going to happen is you want to help them, but if you don't give yourself enough time to worry about like you're going to only end up drowning with them because you're not going to be able to carry the weight of yourself and them to shore. And that's like what just like hit me while you were saying that.
Yeah, and you mentioned forgiveness. It's one of those things people, I think, misunderstand forgiveness. It doesn't necessarily make the situation okay or we're buddy buddy again. It just means you're letting go of that situation. It doesn't mean you have to take back on that person. You're moving on and letting it go.
Yeah, forgiveness is a big can of worms.
I had somebody I was angry with for a very, very long time. Better part of a decade, and it just kind of, it's like, you know what, it's not bothering that person that I'm angry with them. It has no effect on them. It's keeping me pissed off, and let it go.
Yeah, forgiveness is, you can forgive somebody, but that doesn't mean that you can let them back in your life. Like just forgiving them doesn't mean that they have the right to come back in your space. Forgiveness is a two-way street, as in for them, it could be for them, or it could be just for you, for peace of mind, to drop that bag, let it go, wish them well, and just like, that's not a dark spot just tearing away at your brain that you have to worry about anymore.
Absolutely. And, forgiveness is more than just saying sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you got that reference, Mark. Please go check out our episode on Just Friends.
Oh, you idiot!
I've got it.
You should
like that too.
I think also too, like I had a situation where like, one of my best friends now, like almost a decade ago, like similar to you, like I had a situation that I ended up being like very bitter and like I forgave them, but like I had to like separate myself for them for years and I had to grow as an individual. And I feel like that's also some of the portions is like in that growth of yourself, your mental health is going to be better. You're going to learn how to love deeper, how to be more compassionate towards people, how to hear and how to listen to things. And because life is about a experience that ultimately at the end of the day is going to sharpen you. And I think sometimes you kind of both need to grow before there's a reconnection allowed. And like that, like you said, Zambies, like forgiveness is a two-way street. So like I can turn it into a one-way street, but the other person has to put that other lane there.
Yep.
Yeah, you're only responsible for yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, like if I've forgiven that person for X, Y, or Z, whatever they did, like I could feel like, and I've made peace with it, like that's fine. Like that's on me, but I'm not going to allow your toxicity to poison my mental health and like my current state of happiness.
Exactly. I think a lot of us connect over having, differences, being weird club. We bond over that, but that doesn't mean that just because you have that bond that you have to stick with certain people if you're also struggling. Sometimes you need some more solid foundation and rocks to help you out that can be there getting an outside perspective, because sometimes we put ourselves in these little niches and then we don't talk to people outside of them. And sometimes it's good to get a fresh, I don't know, get a normie. Yeah, get a normie in with the weirdos.
Well, not even necessarily a normie, but just somebody different, because everybody's perspective on things are different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get that herd mentality of all these people thinking one way, and then you fall into that, maybe that masking trap, and you forget that you can all connect without, being bully group and, yes, I don't know where I was going with that. I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Well, it's like, all three of us on this call, like we're all like married and like we've been in relationships for quite a while. And so like, I always like the first person that I always come to bounce things off of is my wife. Like every single time, like I have this idea for victims, or I had this idea, or like today at work, like this is the reason why, X, Y, or Z was hard, or like I'm going through this like bitterness past with like, Sally Joe, like, I'm trying to figure out like how to navigate these hard topics. And I think at the end of the day, like, yeah, there's definitely going to be things that like my wife's gonna be like, I don't have any experience in this. Go talk to someone else. And so you kind of move on. But like, I feel like definitely like having one or two people that you have in place to practice those conversations with are truly like key and like paramount to your mental health. But then as you were saying, Zambies, like I think also too, at the end of the day, it's always like nice to always have those people that like, I won't necessarily say maybe you have like a deep relationship with, but like people that have been in similar situations that can kind of give you like a outside perspective to like kind of speak life into that situation, or like some sense of knowledge.
Yeah, and I've gotten to where the people that I talk to and hang out with on rare occasions, I've known for a long time. For the most part. Like I've known you for like what, 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Yeah, we've known each other for 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
You may be the newest of my friends. Yes. To give you some aspect.
You're the baby of the group.
Yeah, he's the baby of the group. I mean,
I broke into the inner circle.
He's a spy.
My best friend I've known over 20 years. I've got another friend who happens to be an ex-girlfriend, but also one of my best friends. Me and my wife just helped her with medical things she had done. My wife dropped her off and I went and picked her up. And I've known the girl for like 20 years, 19 years, something like that. And that's how all my friends are. I've known them 15, 20 years. And I'm pretty selective as to who I associate with for more than just like little things here and there. And it's because I don't like dealing with are they telling me things because they think I'm impressed by it? Are they just trying to fit in with me and my people? Things like that. I don't like dealing with it. What you see is what you get with me. I may tone certain aspects down depending on what it is, but I'm this person all the time.
How would you guys like to help us get mental health resources into schools, conventions, and other events? Well, now you can. Simply go to patreon.com/victims and villains for as little as $1 a month. You guys can help us get mental health resources into current and upcoming generations, educate and break down stigma surrounding mental health, suicide, and depression. And you get exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. And you guys can tell us which Nicolas Cage movie you want us to cover, and we'll do it. All it takes to get started is to go to patreon.com/victims and villains, or simply click the link in the episode description wherever you guys are currently listening or streaming this episode. Pick your tier and get started today. Yes, it's that simple. So quickly select the tier that you want and help us get hope into the hands of the depressed and the suicidal today.
Yeah, can attest to that.
Yeah. I don't know how to tone this down.
I don't know if you guys feel this way, but like when it comes to friends, like I feel like there are like tiers to people to where it's
Yes.
like I have people that like I would consider like an acquaintance because like, we work together or like we share like a mutual like subject or like passion in life. Yeah, things that I would never like we would never talk outside of like a confined setting. And then you have people that like are like friends with air quotes around it because like they're the people that like I don't know, maybe you've like
I feel
worked
like
creatively with, and then you have like people that are like like brothers and sisters that are like with you in the trenches that are like gonna
I
be
ki-
with you through
I
everything.
I kind of feel like if you've helped them move at least once,
I
they're in the higher tiers of friendship.
I think of it as circles. Like you have your inner circle. My inner circle is small because like I have trust issues. But
Sure.
when you have like those people, those are your rock and foundation, and then you have like layers of an onion you peel back, and those people are like, okay, I'd hang out with you and all this, but I wouldn't tell you like my deepest secret. And then you have like you go out, and those people can sometimes fluctuate too, where they once were this close and they'll go out, and people will
Absolutely.
come in, and it doesn't matter how long you've known them. It's more about like the impact and the feeling they give you in your life. But I think it's
Hmm.
normal. Like we have to understand that sometimes people who were once our solid, like inner rock, can do things to make them grow apart. And we want to hold on to that and we want to bring them closer. But it's like the natural pull of the universe that those people aren't right for you at this time. So they will pull away. And sometimes we have to let that.
Yeah, nostalgia can be really detrimental to your mental health sometimes for as much as it can like have a positive impact. It can also at the same time like be toxic because like you were saying like you're holding on to friends because of things that they like ideas of them that once were like 10 to 15 years or whatever the amount of time is, and then likewise but like right now in this current season they're barely talking to you, they're barely confining in you. Like there's a number of reasons that like people kind of go in and out of the inner circle. And I feel like to like at least in my experience, I'm just going to speak from my experience, like people that I've allowed into my inner circle are people that I talk to on a daily basis, whether it is about something as dumb as comics and movies or something as real as mental health and marriage. And those are the people that I will constantly like just pour out myself for. And I feel like, when you have those inner circle people like you Zambies, like I don't really necessarily have I will say I have trust issues. I kind of like depends on the person. But like the people that like I've like stayed in my like inner circle is kind of almost like a exclusive kind of deal. Like once you're in, like the only way out is in a box, to quote Malibu's Most Wanted.
Yeah. I think that some people though, um, just saying Mark with you and you're like having friends for so long. Like as you were saying that in my head, I was thinking the people I talk to that I've known that long are my freaking guild mates from like Warcraft back in the day. And that's why I know them because the game's so old. But like I don't have I have people who come and go in my life all the time, but then there are some people that like will come and they'll like either bust in the door and hit all the right notes and be like I'm here for you, and they like never disappoint and they make you feel safe. And there are people that like naturally just grow, and you like we evolve through our life as we're growing up. We're dumb, we do stupid things, and then we find out, and being an adult, and even as an adult, we have stages where we are always growing, and we are always saying we've made these mistakes. I've learned from them. I want to be a better person as we go on. And those people can grow with us. And it's, I don't know. So for me, I don't think it's so much how long they've been in your life, though obviously someone I've known 10 years, unless you had a rocky relationship, is going to be a good friend. But it's about like how they show up in your life, like talking to you every day.
Absolutely.
They care about you. They ask questions about you, they want to, and like me, I'm a little squirrel or a crow, as in I like giving people trinkets, and those trinkets are usually memes. So if I send you a meme every day, we are best friends. That is how I show my love. It's like, I don't know how to verbally say things, and I hate small talk. So like the, hi, how you doing? How's the weather? No, I'm going to send you a meme or some stupid thing on the internet.
Memes
Dang.
are the best.
So is that that's the way to get into the inner circle? Just infiltrate it with memes.
Memes. Yes, they better be good though.
Well, I think like
memes are the best. I just my thing is, I have issues with people in general. I tend not to really trust anybody.
Ron Swanson.
It takes a while before it kind of, okay, maybe they might be okay kind of thing. It takes a long time, and I've always been that way.
I'm convinced that like I don't know how I ended up like kind of in your life. I think I just like kind of like like I was the sleeping bag victim from one of the Friday the 13th movies. I just like ended up like nuzzling my way somewhere into Hampton Roads, and
you were cool enough. He adopted you.
Sometimes whoops happens.
Yeah.
How do you think there's so many kids around? Sometimes it's
he's got to let a new friend in every once in a while, or people get suspicious.
I have to replace the ones that I kicked out.
He's got to meet his quota.
That, or I kind of hang around and don't go anywhere. It's just okay. Well, he's here. He's not leaving, so I guess we'll interact with him. Give him a cookie.
That's how I get friends. I'm like, I throw myself out there, and like I'm trying to be unapologetic and unmasking. Obviously there's certain situations where you have to, but like I feel like Twitch and streaming and putting myself on the internet and being a weirdo and getting a great response of other people who are weirdos has given me one level of confidence in the fact that I'll just be whoever the hell I am. And then people either like me or hate me. And surprisingly, no one's told me really that they hate me. So I think I'm okay. But when I meet people, I just give them like at least 50% of me and slowly crank it up. And then the people who can handle me at the top level, the spicy heat, are usually the people who are not going anywhere.
Now I'm curious, like what level, with this being the second time you've been on the podcast, like what level have we gotten you at? Have we made it to like 65%?
I think we're at entry level, friend.
No, I would say we're at a medium. We're at a really good Mexican authentic salsa medium. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I think you actually also might be the first time that we've had Andy, and you're like one of like 4 or 5 people that have been on the show multiple
might have
times.
Been the first. I'd be fine.
Yeah.
Then I remembered Andy, and I was like, wait, no, Andy's been on the show for the last 2 Halloween movies.
Yeah.
So I feel special. Usually it's weird when I get invited back to things. It makes me feel really good.
Yeah, it was a case of we were trying to find guests and stuff, and I was like, well,
so I was last resort. Okay.
No, actually not. It was because we were discussing movies for episodes, and the craft came up, and I kind of laughed. I was like, well, she did say if we did something witchy, she'd like to come back. She had fun.
I did say that.
And he went, and Josh was like, sweet. Ask her if she wants to come on for the crew. It was almost
The
instantaneous. You were one of the first people that came to mind when that movie came up.
look, The Craft is like one of the perfect like November films. I don't know why this movie just like reminds me of like fall and like Thanksgiving. I don't know why it just has that like aesthetic to it. I think it's mostly all the flannel shirts in this movie. I just want to throw on the flannel shirts, you know?
Yeah, I should have worn mine. I love it. And like my birthday's this month. So I'm born in the autumn. I love autumn. And maybe I just like the whole, pumpkin spice season and witchcraft. So
And my birthday's in a couple days. So
yeah, we've got
Well,
birthday
happy
buddies.
happy early birthday. After this comes out, I mean, your birthdays could have already passed. So,
yeah, probably.
Maybe.
It's Wednesday, so whatever.
My Oh, I was gonna say my birthday is the day before Thanksgiving. So
it's coming up.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that like, to bring it back to like the whole like friendships and like community things and like who you let into your inner circle, I think that like that's a lesson that Sarah learns at the end of this, where she has kind of cut herself off from Nancy, Bonnie, and Raquel, to where like Raquel and Bonnie go to her at the end of the movie and kind of apologize, and they're like, we just want to know if you still have your powers. And you can kind of see that there is like I love the line that she says, when she's invited to go hang out with them, she says, go home, wait by the phone, and hold your breath. And so you can kind of just see that like there is this like clear cut, like, I'm moving on from you because you're toxic. And she goes through that same thing with Chris. Unfortunately, he meets his untimely demise, but I think that's one of the things that I think her character is really strong in that aspect, is like it's a stark reminder to, like, again, what would come back to what we've been saying, like, always protect your mental health at all costs. No friendship, no family member, nothing is worth damaging your own mental health for someone else's toxicity.
Mm-hmm. Can I add, I want to get on this topic, but as I'm thinking of that scene and they're in the driveway and all of that, it makes me think of the house. And then I think of the house, and then I just think of the bug scene. Oh, that was my favorite, or not my favorite part. I just, like, creepy crawlers, like, it just made my skin crawl. Oh,
It's so funny because I see those scenes in movies with like rodents everywhere and bugs everywhere, and me and my wife laugh because she saves me from the spiders, and I chase off the rodents. So
I don't mind rodents, but I don't like the little legs, because after that movie, I swear to God, every time at night I would look at my sink and be like, nothing better crawl out of there.
she got stuck in the backyard one day because a field mouse was standing on the back deck, and she was scared to step over it and come in the house. So I had to go chase off this little field mouse. But then again, she's had to like come save me from spiders, so it all works.
Look, the thing about this movie,
not even scared to admit it. It's like
that always gets me about the, like, some of the nightmare sequences, and even like one of the very first openings where Sarah is greeted with the homeless man and the snake. Like, those snake scenes like always get me, and they're I don't know, it's a phobia I've inherited from my mother. And like when she's like going throughout the back patio during the climax of this movie, and you just kind of see like snakes crawling out of like every orifice of like their home. No, you guys talk about the spiders and the rodents, I'm like, nope, snakes.
Really? I love
Gross.
snakes.
Out of here.
I can deal with snakes. I don't know enough about snakes, so I'm cautious with snakes. Probably is a good thing, but I like snakes.
Probably.
Cool.
I lived in Florida for 5 years. I saw a lot of snakes. Yeah, snakes don't bother me though, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's a phobia of it, but I don't like all the tiny little legs. Like I love kitty toe beans, that's fine, but the centipedes, millipedes, like the things with all those little movie legs, I hate it. The moving little legs. That is the one thing that just makes me creep.
That's fair. Caterpillars.
Yeah. No, caterpillars are cute, but they're slow. Maybe it's like the rhythm, the fastness of the beat. Like caterpillars are just like, oh, hi, I'm a fat little caterpillar. And then, like the centipedes or whatever are just like, ah, I'm coming to eat you.
Maybe.
I don't
Well,
know.
I think that's gonna do it for us on this episode of abyss gazing. So Zambies, where can people follow you online?
Oh man, everywhere. I don't know if Twitter still
Everywhere.
exists in a little bit.
Twitter's a
There.
cult.
Yeah, I Twitter. I'm a little dyslexic. So I'm going from the bottom to the top to the bottom because Twitter's like my least used. That just popped in my brain. What was I saying? Oh yeah, hi. So Twitch is really I stream now 3 times a week. So from Tuesday to Thursday of 11 a.m. Central, you'll find me live there if you want to talk to me while I'm actually in the live space. And I also have an Instagram and everything. Zambies-decays. It should be my face, hopefully. Maybe.
Little avatar.
Yeah. But I have green skin on there. You know, I put the makeup on here so I look normal.
Mark, to keep the joke going, where can people follow you online?
Okay, so I have a disclaimer this time.
Okay.
I'm working on updating my Instagram, but
it hasn't been updated.
But because it's my miniature painting, I'm trying to work with like there's a couple different programs on like my phone and trying to get some better pictures taken and some of my completed stuff for it. That's why it hasn't been updated, is because I haven't gotten it down yet. So stuff looks right. But I am on Instagram at Titanium Juggernaut Painting. Yeah.
I will keep the joke going. I'm still I haven't updated TikTok in a couple weeks, but
it's gonna blow up anyway. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, there's still a bunch of Hellraiser content out there for you guys to check out. It's Gent Ghostface Gent, and then you guys can follow me on Letterboxd at Captain Nostalgia, and you guys can follow our parent company at Victims and Villains. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and of course wherever you guys get your podcasts from. Until next time, remember that the longer that you gaze into the abyss, the more the abyss gazes back into you.